Hey Hunters, Halo Zoo here for a kind of special video. Probably the first of two D&D videos that is going to come out after this UA. I might do a quick best and worst, but I might not actually thinking about it. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the new Unearthed Arcana that released today when I'm recording this. As you can see, it's the 27th. This is also the probably the first video in kind of series of few weeks of lots of videos, but you'll see what those are starting Saturday, maybe. I don't know. We'll see when I start releasing them, but there may or may not be something starting tomorrow, or that I start recording tomorrow. But anyway, back to D&D stuff. We are on the Artificer, so this is the Eberron updates, though they call it Cartographer Artificer, which seems to imply that the Dragon Marks may have been a last second addition, which thinking about it might explain some stuff. Because what's in this is there is Artificer listed entirely, so this is built off the new Artificer chassis. It is just the base class, the new subclass, so we're not getting reworks of the original four, or the previous four, which is unfortunate because the new armor one option kind of needed more work, but I'm hoping we'll see a second UA with them. But those, I mean, because that was in a kind of poor place when we last saw it. But the Artificer in general, I'll say, quick preface, I will say it's going in a better direction. Unfortunately, there is still a problematic feature that somehow avoided being fixed at all, which is concerning. There's also supposedly updates to the spells and magic items, but there's actually just one new magic item, and that is it. The spell is actually completely unchanged. Like, it implies that there's an updated version of the new spell and magic items, but they're all the same from last time. Which I think there may have been changes that just accidentally got forgotten. Then there are the Dragon Mark feats. So there isn't a background tied to these. It seems implied that there's going to be a background that you take. Right here it just says take the House Agent background and, Dragon Mark feat. You can also take one of them when you class normally allows a feat choice. So this implies that you can't take it as a human, which would actually ironically make a lot of sense. So you are kind of pigeonholed into House Agent or 4th level class feat. But, oh well. But anyway, that is the stuff we'll be going over. And the Artificer. So none of this changed because of course it didn't. There are a few changes. Tinker's Magic. So this is what magical tinkering has become. So it's now got a new name. And oh boy, have they really upgraded this. It is actually useful now. First off, you just get the mending cantrip for free. Hallelujah! They fixed it. It's like they listened to me specifically saying, Artificer just needs the mending cantrip for free. If you're going to have classes have features tied to it, you have to add it in. It's not even funny how crazy it's been not having that. So now you actually have a choice of 2 cantrips, and you might actually start swapping cantrips around before you get to the 3rd cantrip at 10th level. So Yeah. It is a night and day difference when it comes to that. Also, these now last until you finish a long rest. So, yeah. Uh this feature, all the options are now useful. They actually work. So, you can use this and not feel stupid because like the bedroll in particular, now you can just have a bedroll whenever you need it. If you need an extra bedroll for some reason, you have one. You can actually do that. Which, granted, it's still not the most useful, but at the very least, it's not so horrendously bad like last time, where it's like, well, at least now it's like, if for whatever reason you don't have a bedroll with you and you need one, you can make one and actually use it. But before it was just, why would you ever even consider using a bedroll when it only lasts an hour? Like, there's no point to that. Because at that point, it's like, well, why not just use a blanket? You know, like, they're not really that good when they're only lasting an hour. Same with the flasks, jugs, and all that stuff. Because, like, what use is there for a jug that lasts an hour? It's a lot harder to try and justify using it when, if it lasts until a long rest, well, now you can have it be, you can store something in it and then bring it somewhere. So all the items are actually useful now, and it doesn't feel like they're just very bad. Now the only thing I would want is that you can make an item persist when you finish a long rest for a use. So, like, if you've made a flask and you finish a long rest, you can choose to immediately use one of the charges for the next day to keep that item going. So you can just have a flask that you keep with you for multiple days at a time, and you don't have to worry about getting a permanent flask to replace it. That's like the one thing it could use. But otherwise, this is a, yeah, if this releases as it is, I am perfectly fine with that. The previous one was just way worse than what we had before. This is, yeah, I would say this is actually better than what we had before, because it helps you with the cantrip situation and their horrendously limited cantrip selection. So that's been fixed. And it's actually fixed in a good way, as you know, that cantrip choice that has basically just kind of been a default pick that you just had to take. That's just a free cantrip now. It would be like if they gave 2014 Bard Vicious Mockery for free as an extra cantrip known, which would have been great. Now at least it's like, well, it would be nice to have 3 cantrips because you have multiple damaging spell options. But in the context of 2014, they only really had Vicious Mockery, so of course you would want Vicious Mockery as your extra cantrip. And it's why, like, you know, as nice as it was to just give Warlock Eldritch Blast, I would actually say just giving Bard Vicious Mockery would actually be way more impactful in that class, because Warlock, at least, has the illusion of choice. Bard didn't. Here, though, it's definitely nice to see Yeah, you probably should just have mending for free. It makes sense. It fits with being an artificer, so that is just free. So, thank you, wizards. Tinker's magic is actually good. It's not kind of a, well, it's a kind of crappy version of prestidigitation in light. It's not some, like, okay, I can create an item, but most of the list is just a trap option. Uh, so replicate magic item. So they have a few tweaks. So the table is revised, which hides a massive positive change. And also you can use weapons and wands created by it as a spellcasting focus. So yeah, thank you, wizards. That is very nice. So they kind of moved the weapon implement stuff here, which I think is very nice as a, hey, did you make a wand of magic detection? Well, now you can use that as your spellcasting focus if you want to. Same with the wand of magic missiles. But you'll also notice they have removed the creation of just any weapon or wand. So those have all been cut, as thankfully they've kind of realized that in hindsight, maybe they shouldn't be able to just create anything like that, especially the enspelled weapons, which thankfully are nowhere to be seen on this list, and a very welcome omission. Everything else is, so I'm not going to go into the details too much, but yeah, the wand of fireball is also gone. So pretty much if it was an overpowered option before, those have been cut for the most part. They just get magic missiles, which, to be honest, I think is fine. Magic missiles doesn't do the most damage compared to other spells. So it's kind of a, if they're going to get one spam a spell item, magic missiles is probably one of the safer ones. Same with web, where it's a utility spell, or utility control spell. So I'm much happier with this list. While it is sad that it won't have the same future-proofing as you may want, it is nice to see that they have at least acknowledged that, yeah, maybe getting access to whatever wand or weapon, enspelled weapon you want was probably a terrible idea. So then magic item Tinker has been tweaked a bit. So it still kind of acts as a upgrade. Like, I still wish magic item adept and, like, unfortunately I have not consolidated those. I really feel like magic item adept, savant, and master should still be one feature, but oh well. But magic item Tinker, they have changed some things up. Specifically, you can recharge magic items with spell slots, and you can change items into another item, which is pretty nice. So you can drain it. So as a bonus action, you can touch a magic item you made with it and make it a spell slot. So, yeah, you get a first or second rank spell slot back. So that's nice. And then charge magic item. So you can basically use a bonus action to touch a magic item and recharge it with your spell slots. This is only for replicate magic item ones, so once again, thankfully, no, you don't get to abuse the hell out of enspelled weapons. So that's nice. where it's like, hey, you can use spell slots to charge up your wand of magic missiles and shoot more magic missiles if you want to, which is nice. And then transmute magic item. So as a magic action, you touch a magic item in 5 feet of you, and you can change it into a different magic item. This is once per long rest. I feel like it might be better to have a few more uses of this. But at the very least, having this at all is still a major improvement. So now when you can actually say, hey, I really need, say, it's like, oh gosh, we need a ring of water walking. Okay, instead of having to wait a whole day to make it, because why the hell would you make a ring of water walking? Now you can say, okay, we need it. All right, I'll just make my, let's say, +1 armor into a ring of water walking. So this is a nice change. It would be nice if it had more uses, but this is a step in the right direction. I just feel like they could do a bit, give us a bit more of this, so you have a lot more versatility, rather than just having, well, you've only got 1 per day. Good luck. Though I do understand that this could lead to being maybe a bit too versatile. But maybe you could just say, well, if you change an item with charges, then the new item has the same number of charges or less. Like, because let's say you have an item that has a maximum of 10 charges, you've used 4, so it has 6, and then you create an item that has, change it to an item that also has a maximum of 10 charges, then it would have only 6 charges rather than the full 10. So maybe that could be another thing done to make it where this can't be abused as a, oh, my wand of magic missiles is out of charges. Okay, transmute magic item. Oh, hey, I'm going to transmute this into another one. Or a wand of web, let's say. And ha ha ha, I get more spells. So that is something that might need to be changed. Flash of Genius is Flash of Genius. And then Soul of Artifice also got changed, which means, for some ungodly reason, they didn't touch spell storing item. Yeah, I really don't know why this got skipped over. It's way too good as it is. They really need to just knock this feature down a peg, especially since, as I'll get into when I get to the subclass, it actually really hurts that subclass. The class is really warped around this right now. Adding 3rd rank spells to this was a mistake, and honestly, as of right now, simply cutting 3rd rank spells and making this 2nd rank only, it would still be great, but nowhere near as busted. Getting up to 10 fireballs or lightning bolts at 11th level, in addition to what you could already do, is absurd beyond measure and just ridiculously broken. Yet somehow, this isn't the most broken thing in this Unearthed Arcana. There is actually somehow something even crazier, which should be very ominous. It is not, however, Soul of Artifice. So Soul of Artifice, pretty much the one change I think they made to it is just, hey, if you, like, there's only 2 things it does. So when you use Flash of Genius and they fail to save, or they fail to check still, then it's not used. Not amazing. I would have liked something else here in addition, but it's not terrible. Honestly, this could have been moved earlier. Because I still kind of feel like this isn't a good capstone. This feels like this could have been, a level 14 feature that rather than having Magic Item Savant and Master count as separate features, just have these two move down and have an actual capstone to the class. Something powerful relating to magic items or something. I don't know. But you can use more items to give yourself more HP, which I don't think is going to be useful in a lot of situations. Because honestly, I feel like it would be more of a, why would I ever do more than one at a time when a lot of those are probably very important items. So I don't feel like being able to get back up is going to be as important. The only time I could theoretically see a use for it is if maybe the enemy has a power word death or power word kill they haven't used. But that's about it. So then the Artificer spell list, I think it's pretty much unchanged. And I'm just going to address this now before we get into Cartographer. I am going to go down to the spell and the items. Homunculus Servant, completely unchanged. I have looked at it. I do not see anything that is different. It is just okay. Yeah. I don't know why they've implied there was changes. I don't know what they're intended to be. Maybe I would hope it's to make the Homunculus Servant more durable, or remove that the material component is consumed, or drastically reduce its price, because as it is right now, it sucks. It really, that material component is possibly the worst. Yeah, it's granted, I wouldn't say it's the most overcosted. Uh, I mean, that's borrowed knowledge, period. It's the most overcosted spell of all, not just second rank, because it costs 100% more than it should. This one feels like it's at least, I would say roughly 50% more expensive, maybe. But you get the point. Magic items, nothing has changed. They've just added Manifold Tool, which is pretty much just a tool that you can change into any other tool, and you have proficiency in it. I do believe, actually, because if I remember correctly, yeah, they've actually lost their old ability to swap items around, their tools around. Unfortunately, I would greatly appreciate if this was removed. I get the idea they're going for, and this is cool for in case someone else wants to have it. Like a DM wants to give this to the players when they don't have an Artificer around. For Artificer, though, I feel like this should just be a basic thing you get for free. I really don't like this costing one of your magic items made. And if anything, I would say this should probably be a bonus item that you get for free. Because you used to just have this, something that did basically this for free. It is not worth a magic item slot. It really isn't. Especially when it requires attunement. Like, that's just rough, buddy. That is painful. From a, like, just for a, looking at it from the lens of an artificer, it sucks. It's like, not only have they taken it away from something you just get for free, it also takes your, both your attunement and your a magic item known. Yeah, that probably should just be something you get for free. Like maybe you have it as part of Tinker's Magic that you get one for free, but maybe change it to where it's a tool you're proficient in only. I don't know. Because also getting proficiency in the tool it is nice, but it's still taking attunement and a magic item slot, so yeah. Unfortunately, it does kind of get knocked down a peg. So now, the Cartographer. An interesting additional option, to say the least. So, you get calligrapher supplies and cartographer tools. I think the only one that actually gets 2 different proficiencies, which is pretty interesting, actually, that you've got not 1 but 2 items. Then if you already have one, you get a different one instead, so yay, 2 choices. Though in this case, this is one you probably will actually get. You probably won't have one of these already, barring your background stuff, but yeah. And they also get to scribe spell scrolls in half the time. So they are the scroll specialists, which is interesting. So then there are the cartographer spells, which unfortunately is where they really get knocked down a peg. It's so sad because they come out strong at the start. They've got 3 spells, but one of them is admittedly a default Artificer spell, and it's also used by one of your features, so while it is kind of crazy that we're seeing, like, domain spell style spell lists with more options of a certain rank than you would expect, I am at least glad that in this case at least, it's only 1 extra spell, and it's mostly because it's an Artificer default spell, so you actually get 2 new options, and then you just have 1 option that you'd already get for free. It is potentially concerning, though, that this is actually 3 spells that are decently powerful that you might actually want to use and cast. So there is some power level concerns with doing this more in the future, but at the very least, it does feel like these are, in this case, it doesn't feel as bad. But Guiding Bolt and Healing Word is a very powerful set of spells, and it actually makes it the best first rank options thus far. Nobody even comes close. So, yeah, this is good. Second rank, it it goes down a little, but having locate object, I get the idea. Same with Mind Spike, I get the idea. And Mind Spike is actually a good spell, so it's nice to have another good option. And then in third rank, it just falls hard. Third rank is the most important by far, as this is the level you're most likely going to rely on when it comes to your spell storing items, because you really do not have any good options by default. Well, Revivify is there, but realistically, your third rank spells, most of them aren't necessarily worth having. Like, Dispel Magic is alright, but situational, so there's not a truly good option by default compared to stuff like Fireball and Lightning Bolt. Unfortunately, Cartographer gets shafted. They get Clairvoyance and then Haste. You know, just casually getting a spell already on their spell list when they have a very limited spell list for what they actually get to know. Yeah, not great. And, in fact, fourth rank, Freedom of Movement and Locate Creature. Great. Another spell I've already just got in Freedom of Movement. And it's not even an amazing spell. I get why they might have wanted to add this, but this just leaves you kind of pigeonholed into grabbing Summon Construct, or maybe using Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound, since that's not a total piece of crap now. And then the fifth rank spells are Scrying and Teleportation Circle, which at least it's two spells you don't normally access, but still nothing amazing. Which means that if you want to do anything in combat, you're pigeonholed into just upcasting Mind Spike or Summon Construct, because Bigby's Hand. It's like, you just don't get anything good compared to the other ones, as the other four have just been getting better options than you've gotten. It's kind of unfortunate, especially in a world where the Artificer subclasses have kind of become defined by their third rank features, rather their third rank spells, instead of anything else they do. And this is also why I'm saying that spell storing item is warping the class. It just makes those spells way too important. And in this case, it's pushing a subclass that could have been cooler into being worse than it probably should be, because there's nothing good to have. Like, Alchemist wasn't great, but at least it had Mass Healing Word, which can actually be pretty good now. Similarly, Battlesmith doesn't really get the greatest heights like Armorer and especially Artillerist, but it at least had Conjure Barrage, which was an actually pretty decent cone spell. Sure, it's not Fireball or Lightning Bolt, but it's still a pretty good spell to use. Cartographer has nothing. And without confirmation of whether you're actually able to upcast, yeah, this one just is a bit rough, sadly. Doesn't quite work as well as it could have. So ultimately, this spell list needs some work. First rank, gold standard. Everything else, it goes. First and second rank, I think, are good. It's just the third, fourth, and fifth rank that probably needs some going back to the drawing board and looking at it, because I don't know if this should really... There might need to be some changes. Though I will say, at least with fifth rank, I fully understand why they get both that they do. I just question whether or not they should have something else that's actually useful here. Then we get onto the actual normal features. So everything else thus far has kind of been just, well, that's what Artificers normally get in their subclass. So they do have Adventurer's Atlas. When you finish a long rest while holding Cartographer's tools, you can use that tool to create a set of magical maps, touching 2 creatures, or at least 2 creatures, and you can include yourself in these. And the maximum is 1 plus your intelligence modifier. The minimum of 2, actually. And each of them receives a magical map, which is illegible to anyone else. Lasts until you die, or you use the feature again. And while carrying them, people know get the following benefits. So they add D4 to initiative rolls, so great partner for Assassin Rogue. And positioning, so basically the target always knows where other people with a map are. So you always know where one another is. And a very cool benefit that I think it has so much potential for some like good saves. When you cast a spell or create an effect that requires being able to see a target, you can use it on another map holder regardless of sight. As long as they're still in the spell or effects range. So this means you can cast stuff like Healing Word without needing to actually see somebody if they have one of your maps. This is really cool, I'll be honest. It's, some subtle benefits, but this is actually really cool. The initiative bonus is, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of just there, but it's nice. And positioning is, once again, it's kind of just there, but cool, and has some really crazy potential when you actually start getting into the weeds of stuff like, Vortex Warp with this is actually really good, where, oh no, we're separated, but they're in range of my Vortex Warp. Okay, I'm just gonna yoink you over here. So it's very nice to see this. Then you have scouting gadgets at 3rd level as well, meaning you actually get technically 4 features, but it's really kind of a utility feature that has a nice utility feature, and then this. So you have Boost. On your turn, you can expend half your movement to teleport 10 feet. Now, one interesting thing is, this might actually let you... So, there's a few weird things that happen with it. First off, you can technically, you might be able to use this multiple times. So you might be able to get 20 feet of movement out of this. Also, if you have increased speed for whatever reason, this ends up with some very weird situations. Like, let's say, hypothetically speaking, that I've got some speed boosts and my speed is 40 feet. This actually makes this worse. So I would suggest that maybe this should be nerfed to change to a static, count you need. So you can spend 20 feet of movement, let's say, to move, to teleport 10 feet. This also has some other weirdness, as this can actually, if for whatever reason your speed is now 10 feet, you can actually spend half your movement, only 5 feet, and then teleport 10 feet. And if I am right, and you can use this multiple times per round, which doesn't feel like it's necessarily intended. I don't know if it is, but if that is the case, then you could actually use the other 5 to teleport another 20 feet, meaning that your speed can't really go below 20 feet, which is crazy. So I would suggest maybe some tweaks to this, but I do like the idea of, yeah, you can do a little teleporting. Now, one thing this does mean is that you can actually move away and kind of get a disengage of sorts as part of your movement. You only sacrifice 5 feet of movement by default for this, but you do get a kind of, okay, well, I spend 5 extra feet of movement to teleport instead of moving normally, and oh, you don't get opportunity attacks on me. Ha ha ha. Also, this can be useful in... There's some little uses this will have. Thankfully, for an at-will teleport, this is nowhere near as busted as other ones we've seen, such as on Way of Shadows Monk, where they just casually get at-will Misty Step. Yeah, it's crazy. Sure, there's supposedly this restriction that it can only be used in dark conditions, but that's not a big problem for a Shadow Monk. But they also have the Radar feature, which lets you cast Fairy Fire without a spell slot. Number of times equal to your intelligence modifier. So basically, you just get plus intelligence spell slots just for Fairy Fire, which is actually pretty nice. And I do like this one as a kind of, oh hey, reveal the enemies. And this feels so thematically cool that it's kind of sad this class really starts to fall off after a strong start. As Boost is, it's not broken, but incredibly useful for very specific things, even if it does have some jank to how exactly it works. Where I do think it probably should just be capped at, hey, you only take 20 feet of your movement. You take a set amount of your movement to teleport. So, 20 feet for 10-foot teleport. So, you're moving half the distance, but you're teleporting that distance. And if you do have speed boosts, you can teleport more times. But, importantly, if you're slowed, it doesn't start to become absolutely busted and kind of get around being slowed. And Radar is just nifty but cool, though I do have a slight concern that it might be a bit too good at what it does. Where it might be a bit too good at countering invisibility and stealth to the point where it kind of challenges the DM to counter it. So, to me, it kind of feels like a hard counter to invisibility and stealth, where it's just like, well, there's a Cartographer, so I can't really use stealth enemies to actually be stealthy. Now, I do understand it's great as a, yeah, you're going to have this spell more often, so you don't have to waste your other spell slots on it. So you can do stuff like use your Guiding Bolt and Healing Word more often. Though I think it might also be nice if, as an additional effect, if you use Radar Fairy Fires, then it also gives you the positioning bonus for spells. So you can do stuff like, oh, hey, I'm going to Radar Ping you. Oh, now I can Guiding Bolt you, even though I can't see you. You could do a similar thing with Mind Spike, maybe, where, oh, you're Mind Spiked? Okay, I know your position. So that might be some cool stuff to add to it, but I digress. Then we get level 5, and this is where they really start falling off. So at 5th level, you get the ability to teleport 60 feet as a bonus action. And you have int uses per day. Okay, nice. Now, you can use it without expending a use if you destroy an Adventurer's Atlas you've made. to teleport to that creature. Not entirely sure how useful this is, but it does give you an additional 1+ int uses per day. So it's kind of like you can have up to double, but it does mean that you do have some more limited, like, you will take up an Adventurer's Atlas, which might be kind of a good risk/reward thing if you need it. In a pinch, you got extra uses. Though it would also be nice if it specifies that you don't need to see the space if you're using it through that, but okay, that's nice. What else do they get? Nothing. Yeah, so this is where it really starts to hurt. Not only do they get screwed over at 9th level, they start getting screwed over at 5th. As they don't have a damage buff feature at all. Which is very, very unfortunate. As I feel like that would have been a perfect... So, yeah, it's just kind of a... Well, what's the point? The other 4 all have some sort of damage bonus at this point. And you get nothing. Sure, I mean, Alchemist it doesn't get anything amazing, but it has something. They all have something. Power levels are varying, but that's okay. This one, all you get is more teleportation. Sure, a 60-foot teleport as a bonus action without spell slots is awesome, but unfortunately, this is the point where they're supposed to get damage power boosts in combat. This isn't that. I would say maybe it should be moved over to 9th level as part of that, and shouldn't be their only 5th level feature. As good as it is, on its own, it just leaves them in a place of being worse. Not really having much to compete with the others. Level 9, then, is Ingenious Movement. So when you use Flash of Genius, you or a willing creature in 60 feet of you can teleport 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see as part of that reaction. So this is somewhat situational. However, I can see a few good uses for this since Flash of Genius is available to use with saving throws. As it's like, oh, I'm in breath weapon range of a dragon. Great. Okay, here's a teleport for you. Unfortunately, I'd say this isn't exactly amazing. While I appreciate the buff, the added teleport, I don't think it will always be that useful. And, well, actually what's weird is that it's not even on like a... It doesn't even teleport the ally in question. So, yeah, it's kind of just there? I don't know. It feels a bit weird, and looking at it now, I'm like, yeah, I don't really like this. It feels like it's just tacked on, and that's kind of a theme with this Unearthed Arcana, as when I get to the Dragonmark feats in the next part, yeah, there's a lot more of that. Then we have Superior Atlas at 15th level. So you've got Safe Haven. So when a map's holder is reduced to 0 HP but not killed, you can destroy the map, teleport it to within 5 feet of you or another map holder of its choice, and it's immediately stabilized. So it kind of like, oh crap, get over here. button, which does set up for a big Cure Wounds. So that is actually kind of nice. Then Unerring Path. If you're the one of the map holders as it, you can cast Find the Path without expending a spell slot once per day. So basically just once per day, you can use your Atlas to cast Find the Path. It's just, I mean, why wouldn't the Cartographer be able to cast this spell in some way? So, checks out. And Unshakable Mind. While at least one Adventurer's Atlas exists, damage doesn't cause you to lose concentration on your Artificer spells. Okay, that is actually nice, because there is definitely quite a few concentration spells. And due to the way this subclass works, you are probably going to lean on stuff like Haste, Mind Spike, and various other spells like Summon Constructs as well, Bigby's Hand. So this is definitely nice on a class that does have that is kind of pushed to use a lot of concentration spells, so it's nice. Though you shouldn't be getting attacked as much, but hey. It's a buff to concentration on a class with plenty of concentration spells, though fortunately nowhere near as bad as being a ranger or especially warlock. But it's nice. 50th level feature, yeah, it's a good capstone, though I think sadly it could use something with a bit more oomph to it. Because it kind of feels like after third level, they just really fall off flat. Where it's like, and any cool stuff they had is kind of cut. Now, another note I will give this subclass. An idea that I've had looking at it on how to expand on it, give them ways to alter terrain. Now, they already have Stone Shape in the spells they can learn, but what if they were to have, say, Erupting Earth? Or other spells that create ground zones to worry about. And while I'm loath to suggest this spell at all, Spike Growth could be a decent option, though I do think the two spells they get kind of make sense. Though maybe thinking about Mind Spike might be a bit redundant with Fairy Fire, but oh well. But you get the idea, like big ground effects that you create would be a cool way to expand on it. Kind of like Amalia from Lost Caverns of Ixalan in Magic the Gathering. She was able to use her magic stuff to reshape the battlefield. I think that would be a cool thing to add to this subclass as a direction to go with the whole damaging, kind of add some more offensive abilities, offense and control, rather than just being, oh yeah, you're all about teleportation and that's it. You got some good third rank stuff or third level stuff, but beyond that, you're really bad. And Erupting Earth instead of Haste would be, that alone would probably save the subclass a lot in the power levels. Same with maybe moving Portal Jump to 9th, cutting Ingenious Movement and doing something else here that adds to your damage and control, like your combat options, and buffs your combat capabilities in some way. Like maybe, I don't know, you get like a bonus to like targeting stuff near one of your map holders. Like, let's say, hypothetically speaking, you could have, say, oh, if a creature is, when you would deal damage with a spell to a creature in, or like, you know, when you would deal damage to a creature in 5 feet of another Adventurer's Atlas holder, then you get plus intelligence modifier to that damage roll. So, it's like you want to be more. So, like you get a bonus for being targeting stuff near your map holders where the map holders matter. Stuff like that, I think, would be pretty cool. Otherwise, though, I think the Artificer, they're moving in a positive direction. It's just they still need to fix to nerf spell storing item. It's really not in a good place right now. Cartographer could also use some buffs to everything that's not the initial stuff they get. Where I think their initial stuff is perfect. Except Boost. Boost kind of needs some tweaks because it's got a little jank to it, but that's kind of on brand for Artificer, if we're being honest. However, everything else at 3rd level, I think it's great. It's just everything else, it starts to go downhill. But without further ado, that has been the Artificer changes in this UA. So I've decided I'm going to, on the spot, splitting this into the Artificer stuff and then the Dragon Mark feats. So we'll talk about that next time. And without further ado, I will see y'all next time. Halo Zoo out.